Part 3. Tourists and Visitors to Syracusa. Alex. From Dionysus's ear to Arethusa's fount and other places in between, I have a feeling that you're following me. What's on? You'll make me think you want, I'll say not what. Cory. Mi despace, sir, signor, mine heir. You make me feel confused. The route we take is all coincidence, but what you sense is that I'm looking rather hard at you, because I'd say we've met before, somehow, somewhere. Could that be true? Alex. If not met, seen. That is the likelier thing. I've been so many places, near and far. Where were you last? Half choked in Beijing's fog? To rest and breathe, try Taormina or Tahiti's shores. Today, all travel's much like work. Cory. I've been in Europe, not much past Italy. I find it's good enough for me. From Mantua's plains to Etna's height, all's fine. Even Rome and all the crowds, I've just come here from there. But Taormina, that I like. It's heaven. So even Goethe said when he could stop examining varieties of Sicily's soil. Alex. You sound like Verdi, who declared, "The universe is yours if Italy's for me." Cory. Well, I'm not Verdi, but wherever I go, I write some songs or poems for each place. Alex. You have them here? I'll listen to them if you wish. We should sit down. It's rather hot to keep on walking in this sun. Let's find the nearest tree, beech, oak, or cypress, willow, or plane. Let poets find them different meanings. What's certain is trees offer shade. Cory. Just there is fine. Things aren't so certain with my words. On Syracuse, they're very new. With some of them, I must admit, still rough. They're all a bit impromptu. More than description of a place, I write of people, native here or those who visited and stayed. Alex. I'll listen anyway when you begin. Cory. Born in Eleusis, where in Greece the cult of Ceres flourished most, the father of stage tragedy was raised. He was familiar with the maiden's fate. Indeed, according to the Stagirite, the plays of Aeschylus, most now are lost, betrayed some secrets of initiate rites. Save but for bravery at war, at Salamis, and the Marathon in which the playwright lost a hand, he would have forfeit life itself. Even so, he was attacked with such degree of violence by a crowd, it's likely why, before too long, he took to sea in Syracuse. At Democopus's theatre, there his tragedies could be performed. First the Persians, which had won a prize, but though among all 90 plays were ignorant what depth his women of Etna plumbed. In Reason's cause, the playwright wrote, what sounds like homage to Athena's power, and then the benefits of rule by men, which would not have been clear to all. The play which most affirmed it was the same, at which a pregnant woman died in shock at sounds too supernatural. Even so, it must be said that though in youth it was the vine god told the dramatist to write, with age and Syracuse he grew more like Apollo's devotee, a lover of the local light. At Gela, not at Enna, Aeschylus died. His end, alas, was all too tragicomic. Due to a forecast he had heard, he feared to stay too long indoors, but outdoors proved no safer. An eagle thought his head a rock, and on it dropped a tortoise. Alex. That must be a myth. I'd guess the last act of the playwright's life got written by his enemies. Cory. I think I'll let you read the next piece if you choose. Philosophy's more serious. Alex. As though for life's experiments, Sicilia was the promised land. Pythagoras once settled there, in Croton, where disciples learned new simple ways and diet too. None caught or ate an animal. Perhaps recalling the example shown, great Plato sailed to Syracuse 3 times. With politics corrupt in Greece, then hearing how across the sea within the largest colony that glutton and debauch were rife, the best solution seemed to be to educate some leaders. Indeed, he would feel honor-bound, and working for the good of all. With sober Dion, an admirer, he was the local tyrant's brother-in-law. But fears of too great influence at court had Dion placed beneath a ban, and Plato flee the hostile shores. And later, visits ended much the same. Once come to power, the tyrant's son, at Dion's urge, at first submitted to the sage's way, but wearied soon, and once again intrigue and violence arose. Dion, long cheerfully exiled abroad and pupil at the academy, at last returned, and being reason's child, and thus an enemy to mere anarchy, placed rule and order on his home. But by recourse to sword and force, the island slid towards new chaos. And thus, with age and grave experience, the visitors from Athens learned that teaching can't alone suffice. The maybe necessary second best is rule by law. So what he deemed the good might need assistance from strict rules and greater limitation. And so, O Syracuse, alas, your world and history helped to shape ideas for later generations of a state less democratic than policed. All poetry suspect or simply banned, and gays, the sage now changed his mind, and allowed for laws against them. Corey. Now me again. Next in my line is someone born in Syracuse. Archimedes found out many things in physics, math, in pumps and screws, and managed too to map the heavens. But even so, his fame lies chiefly with his bath, where inspiration in a trice revealed how he, beyond whatever science knew, could judge the buoyancy of water. Up from his seat, within the tub he jumped, screamed but one word, Eureka! And then, while still adrip, ran out stark naked through the streets to share the thrill of his discovery. Alex. How fortunate the police weren't there, the type to think him criminal. Corey. No, it was a Roman called him criminal and killed him with a sword for studying maths with Carthage at the city gates. But clothed or nude, he was so little loved and lost to public memory soon. It was alone the brave and gold-mouthed Cicero, when not attacking Verus's crimes, discovered and restored his tomb. At this point, there's an interval, a tuning of the instruments, let's say, in which we introduce some other themes that follow. When, because he would look back, sad Orpheus lost a wife to Hades' realm. His interest turned, and, so it's said, he taught and loved young men instead. But his own magic lyre, the legend goes, had floated down from Thrace to Greece, and stopped at where fair Sappho dwelt. Alex. With that, did someone wish to imply that love and lyric verse are gay, and maybe even music too? Corey. Perhaps, or possibly they thought bisexual? For some say Sappho had a child. Consider, too, King David loved to play a harp, and he had wives and sons, but then, as scriptures tell, he loved and entered, marriage with a man. The word they used was brith. In Sicily, no doubt, things were more free, as long before von Gloden had a camera trained on charms of local naked youth, Greek Diocles, who admired just such, once dead, was honored, and at his own grave, with competitions in the spring for boys to meet and greet in the grandest style, to kiss in harmony with vernal gusto. Just what they did in Syracuse remains unsure. We only know Theocritus approved. Things weren't so easy for the other sex, but nonetheless, your turn. Pull the stops out for a great poet. Alex. To Syracuse from Lesbos Sappho came, in flight from Pittacus, a tyrant and intrigues back home. The citizens were so agog that she, whom Plato called 10th Muse, inventor of new music and poetic forms, should seek to make her home with them, that even before they saw her face, as welcome to their refugee, Selanion was engaged to carve a statue in her honor. Before the town hall it was raised, but then, like Archimedes' tomb, this too was doomed to disappear. Only the pedestal was left. Another of those victims to gross Verus's theft. And yet, how like the symbol of a fate that was. One poem from 9 volumes is what now remains. And for the rest, like marble chips, We own but scattered fragments, and they're unclear. The dialect in which the lesbian wrote itself died out, and like her image fades away, as when it's said this poetess was fair and tall, while others think her dark and low. So in the end, it is the name and fame alone endure. Such was the fate of one who wrote, alas, as she herself would once admit, despite her social and erotic themes, chiefly to be recalled when she passed on and not be lost tonight within the underworld. Corey. I'll come back again. I represent Italia. The centuries passed, but then, as though he had to pursue the lesbian, as surely later fathers would to hell, the Apostle Paul sailed into harbor with a companion, Luke, a doctor. Though there's legend claims a painter, an unlikely pair they might appear. One strict, the other generous, the apocalypse of one some deem indeed, half gay with two men sleeping in a bed. But anyway, even twins affinned can be at odds and disagree. And of the heavenly twins beneath whose sign the two embarked at Syracuse, we know that Pollux was a boxer, as was Castor too, though he was more disposed to sleep. As to St. Paul, I cannot speak for Luke. He maybe liked to box, but not the air. Alex, I'll interrupt you there. I want to say, with no church founded nor epistle written, and just 3 days, Paul was ashore. Could time here be significant? A small church only, not a cathedral, or cathedral square exists in town to commemorate his stay, and that stands close beside some ruins of Apollo's shrine, which some might feel was almost right, because, if mildly, quietly in its way, this place is somewhat pagan still. Its transformation is its style, and not, I think, conversion. In Centertown, with little change, the Virgin's cult now owns Athena's temple. Corey. No, once again, I think this is symbolic. 3 days Christ laid within the tomb, and on the 3rd day he was raised. Recall Paul's company was tossed about and nearly died, devoured by fiercely angry waves until they ran aground in Malta. A pattern of pure woe indeed, one much akin to storms and tempests of our lives. When 3 months later they could leave, safe harbor lay in Syracuse, as well as calm and brief serenity. 3 days before the apostle sailed to Rome, to judgment on his life and work, his final days in execution. Thus, say that Syracuse is the sacred pause, the moment of vision and rest, maybe a fork within the traveler's road, almost a place of heaven's door. As have not others said before, this island stands a portal to heaven as to hell. Escaped from out a prison cell above the bay of Malta, that artist Caravaggio, the same who claimed, he was no Paul, that all his sins were mortal, found home a while in Syracuse. His goal was Rome and pardon there, though he met death along the way. But in this harbor city he still gained some favor with its leaders. These all were keen. He turned a hand to make fine image of their patron saint. He showed her dead and ready for her burial. Her story goes she had been dragged towards a brothel where her throat was cut because she'd wished to sacrifice both life and chastity to God. The image shows, Alex, oh, something morbid, I dare say, but then that was that painter's way. He loved the shadows more than light. But Lucy stands for all that's bright, so white is doubtless in the picture. Enough of history and the town. Let's follow sunlight to the beach. I'll put the sunscreen on your back.